Well, it's been a little bit. We've got to get our bearings.
We're still in this sewer level!
Just for context, in the 8 months since we have recorded the last episode, we've done a few episodes of Gun and all of Mark of the Ninja. So it's been a while.
It's been a hot minute.
So the first couple of maps here of Act 2 are completely brand new for the Prophecy remake. Act 2 of XBLA, we'll be seeing it a little later. It's not great. This one actually starts to give you like a little tutorial on some platforming stuff, and also on how to use the LP4, the pistol we got in the last video.
Really an expansive level.
Oh, Jesus.
You've come this far, Kate. You can do it.
Oh, for some reason I thought that was an electric cable, but it's just clipping geometry over there. So yeah, obviously that's instant death if you fall down into the electrified water. You just use A and D to balance yourself, like any good action game.
Okay, Kate. Balance. Breathe.
So this game has multiple ammo types, and we haven't fought any enemies yet, but we're already going to get ammo type number 2. Right over here. These are semi-automatic rounds. Basically, they turn the LP4 into like a standard pistol. However, I found a faster way to get these rounds through some experimentation. You could just sort of jump over here and skip having to go into the balance beam.
Oh my god.
Okay, so here's the thing with ammo. This game is very sparse with ammo. You never have to reload, but every single bullet is precious. Like, I think like the max amount of ammo I had at any time for the semi-auto was like 30 or 40 shots. It's really sparse. Oh, and here's another pro tip. If you want to go to cross balance beams quickly, don't do this. Do something really stupid. Just take out the Mavi. And you'll go across a little quicker.
Walking on the cell phone again.
Yeah, there's some extra ammo over there. You really need every bullet you can grab. There's some fire blocking our way. We're gonna have to use the sight scan to open the door and extinguish the flames blocking our path.
Oh.
If you actually open the door from the walkway, there's an extra cutscene. And there's no quick swapping for the ammo. You have to hold down the R key.
You have to open the wheel and
Yeah.
go through all that malarkey. Gotcha.
So we have 2 different objectives here. We gotta find the cipher, which is pretty close. There's also these power generators that are powering the electrified water. We're destroying those. So you see, we got that multiplier on the side. That's the main scoring system for the combat. There are multipliers for killing enemies that we'll see later, and also for just destroying the environment.
So, feeding into those destructive tendencies is
Yeah,
points.
we will be destroying lots of things throughout the rest of this LP. Both people and objects. Here we go, we're gonna get our first taste of combat here. Fighting against enemies, in Prophecy at least, it's actually pretty fun. For now, though, I'm just gonna shoot these 2 guys in the head, but we'll explore the combat mechanics a little bit later. Also, coming up right now, there's actually a really funny line after I kill this other guy. I think you're gonna like this.
Jesus, Scooter. You could have warned me.
Kate, I've got 2 balls and neither of them are crystal, okay? There aren't any CCTV cameras in there.
So yeah, when you use the LP4 sonic rounds, they not only make splashes in the water, and they can sweep enemies off of their feet, as well as manipulate corpses a bit. So we can get really creative with our environmental destruction in later maps, but for right now, mainly it's just explosive barrels. So, we've seen that Prophecy can be pretty fun, but let's see how the XBLA version handles combat.
Oh no.
So here's the start of Act 2. This is the XBLA version of that other cutscene we saw at the end of the last video.
Finally, a lucky break. Okay, ammo?
Just, sonic rounds.
Oh shit, Kate. Stay there. Ugh, I had to jinx it, didn't I?
What is it?
Hush now, Kate. Damn, there's no other way around. Thank God for that LP4.
Okay, so in the original version of the game, they really want you to like manipulate objects with the sonic rounds in order to like group objects and enemies together, and then set up combos with them. But it's really clunky. Most of all, because they have randomized waves, because there's no scripting with the water. I mean, we're in a dry area now, so it's a little easier. Also, you click the right stick to aim from cover.
What?
Yeah.
I hope his mother knows he's smoking.
I killed him.
He got exactly what he deserved, Kate. Just stay focused, girl. You need to go through the cyclo-converters to get to the loading bay.
Alright, so going back to the Prophecy version, it immediately throws you into another fight. So in Prophecy, Kate can do things like blind fire from cover, which is something that you can kind of do in XBLA, but there's an extra animation where Kate peeks her head out of cover. I should also point out that the difficulty was significantly decreased on Prophecy, which is for the better. Because, again, I'm just for reference, I'm playing on easy on the XBLA version and normal on Prophecy, and enemies do about the same damage.
Oh, wow.
It ends up being a lot more fun, though, on Prophecy. Alright, so here's another gimmick. You can also shoot out glass doors with the LP4, and that will raise the water level in the room. And that sweeps that stuns this enemy. He has to reload. And now he's been swept off his feet, and he's slowly drowning. So I'm going to put him out of his misery by burning him to death.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And all of that, of course, is various environmental bonuses stacking on top of each other. So the one bad thing about the controls in Prophecy is that sprint and taking cover are bound to the same... Oh, I have no idea how I got those points, but I'll take them. They're bound to the same button, which is C by default. And you cannot bind them to different keys.
That seems like a gross oversight.
Also, look at all that environmental destruction I just caused from one canister. From one gas canister.
Wow.
You can get really crazy with some of the with some of the environmental destruction, especially in Prophecy, because there's more objects and more enemies.
I mean, it's clever, I'll give it that.
In XBLA, it's more of a chore, but it's really fun to do in Prophecy. And of course, you can slowly fill the room with more and more water just by shooting out all the glass doors, to the point where it's basically completely filled.
The vent, to your left.
Alright, we're going to stick with the XBLA version for a while. Until it matches up with that other objective, getting to the vent.
Kate, you need to find the route to the cyclo-converters. And the doors are encrypted, so you'll need to find another frequency key.
There is a little bit of a hint. You can sort of see that that dilation there. That's meant to be a little bit of a hint that the gas leak is there. That's one of the things they changed with the pure version. They gave a bit better of a tell. Also, listen to the charge here. I'm pretty sure that was from one of the Mega Man X games when you charge the beam.
It might be.
Alright, so this fight's not especially interesting. I guess we can time to talk about the little bit of what happened after launch of the original game. There is evidence that Dark Energy Digital's creative director Deborah Jones may have harassed at least two publications that posted negative reviews, Destructoid and Edge Magazine. Jim Sterling, in particular, who worked for Destructoid at the time, claims that that Deborah Jones left 6 voicemails for Destructoid's sports editor, even though they didn't work in the same state, asking for Sterling specifically.
Wow.
I've got a direct quote that we're going to be referencing later.
That's a little shady. Like,
I mean, there's passion for your work, and then there's trying to interfere with publications' opinions.
Looks like your two friends here were guarding the cycle converters, Kate.
I don't like where this is leading.
So that was one of the extra pieces of dialogue with Scoot that was cut, because one of the big things that people complained about was that Scoot talked too much and that he interjected too frequently when the player was stuck. So in addition to getting rid of the frequency, they also just cut big conversations that he had with Kate. So again, with the non-lethal shots with the sonic rounds, it basically just stuns enemies.
so you just leave them laying face down in the water.
Yeah. All right, so here's a direct quote from one of the PR representatives. It may have been one of the Joneses, either Deborah or Robert. Clearly, they haven't played the game. We're extremely frustrated by the review. This is Edge Magazine. We've got reviews that are absolutely outstanding that say they love the product. No, it's not a third-person shooter, and no, it doesn't have a stun round. Doesn't just have a stun round. The game is about the environment. It's about the water. What you really need to do to get the depth of the game is about using the environment. If they don't do the review properly, they shouldn't do a review at all.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Again, direct quote, as this man burns to death in the water. Direct quote from public relations representatives on the record. This is not someone in a bar ranting about how much journalists suck. This is, like, directly quoted. Absolutely amazing stuff. I agree, Kate. That was a horrible way to handle marketing and bad criticism. You're right on the money.
Like, everything you could possibly do wrong from a PR standpoint, it sounds like they did in the initial months that this game came out.
Yeah, like I said, they did eventually turn things around, but those first initial, like, 3 or 4 months of PR were pretty terrible. So this room, there's a cipher in this room. It took me a while to realize that, and there's really nothing, unless you check your map, there's nothing indicating it, and surprisingly, Scoot doesn't intervene here, of all places. Also, they just lock you off with an invisible wall here.
What?
Yeah, this is, to the game's credit, it's one of the only places, if not the only place, in the game where they actually just lock you off with a blatant invisible wall when you can't progress. So this is what the 3D map looks like. It's identical to how it is in Prophecy, it's just really hard to control. So eventually I found the cipher. And I follow the arrows.
I like how she's just standing underwater.
Yeah, as you probably guessed, they changed the location of this cipher in Prophecy. Also, you'll notice there's no oxygen meter.
So can she drown?
Yes, with no oxygen meter. They did add the oxygen meter in Pure, which was the first XBLA update, but in this original version, no oxygen meter.
Wow.
You're supposed to tell how close Kate is to drowning by these sounds that you hear in the background of well, I can't exactly say why because that's a spoiler, but you'll see.
It's like deja vu, Kate.
Alright.
No idea.
Also, you see, the B button there wasn't cancel, it was stop playback. Almost like it was like the default for an FMV or something.
Jesus, you got damage, Kate.
And Scoot will sometimes react if you blow yourself up, by the way. He has a special line there. Also, for whatever reason, I thought that panel on the right was destructible, but I spent a few seconds there trying to blow it up like an idiot. Oh, and sometimes when you land a good shot with the LP4 Sonic round, Scoot will say this.
Sonic boom!
Did I ever tell you about how I won Scottish Evo in 2045? Alright, you may have guessed this reference was coming.
Pinky, how's it goes? Now I know what a TV dinner feels like.
Scoot, are the engines running?
Aye. What does that mean?
Makes sense. If the Malthusians wanted to shut them down, they would have done it by now. Wait a second. That's why they were guarding the cycloconverters. To protect the engines.
Okay, so I kind of ran into a glitch with the Thomas Malthus documents. They just, for whatever reason, they refused to be collected when I ran through this. So I'll try to pick up as many documents as I can. I'm actually going back and retroactively collecting all the documents that I missed. But there may be some Malthus documents I just won't be able to pick up for no reason because of this glitch in Act 2.
Did they test this?
Well, they certainly didn't test the original version. I would like to think that they had a little more testing in prophecy given the scrutiny the first version went under, but...
I mean, my first thought would be reduce your PR budget, raise your QA budget.
I would think raise the PR budget for one thing, because the creative director and the creative director and senior designer were the only ones working PR.
Yeah, I mean, hire someone.
Yeah, hire someone to do your PR
person.
is often like the big lesson that smaller developers need to learn. Also, for some reason, I just lost the audio for like the next 15 seconds. I'm sorry, I don't know why.
Those giant cassette tapes, sweet.
Okay, so of these three computer panels, which one do you think is the one to that you need to activate to get to the next objective?
I'm gonna say the blank one.
You're smarter than I was. Although it's not exactly the blank one per se. It's the one whose textures hadn't loaded in yet.
What?
See, look.
Oh my god!
There it is now. Okay, so now we have the ability to hack into cameras. And look, we can zoom in on ourselves, but Kate's shy. She turns her head away.
Please. Why are you doing this?
The end of righteousness is everlasting life, but the wages of sin are death. Those whose minds are not suited to a purer state of existence should perish and be condemned to mix again with their original clay. With how much truth great cities have been called the graves of mankind.
The electricity! No! Highlight the door and open it, quickly!
Alright, so this is an interesting little puzzle, but if you stand here a little bit, they got a message.
You are worthy.
I'll do whatever you want. There's water behind it! Oh, you did it, girl! You saved him! Good luck, wee man!
You did it, Kate. You saved him. Hey, good luck, pal. The cycloconverters are overloading. Ha ha! Take that, assholes!
It's killed the power surge.
Jackpot.
So the engineer, excuse me, that we saved. You check the medal that we got. The heroism medal. He actually has a name. His name is Grimly. He is mentioned a couple of times in some of the documents that we've been picking up. We've been looking at those in the thread.
All right. So
Don't worry, I'll pick that.
He's critical to the story.
He's in like one of the side stories, yeah. Don't worry, I'll pick up that document later. Alright, so let's go back here. Okay, so take a look at this tutorial in the top left.
Alright.
Undefined.
Oh my god.
They used an old version of the build for this game when they made the FMV tutorials. There's also a HUD element that's in all the tutorials. Also, there's also a slight lock-on feature that's in the tutorial that is not in any version. Like, even if you're playing on like the easiest difficulty settings possible, there's no lock-on at all for any of the environmental kills. But yeah, basically they used a beta build for their tutorial, and yeah, it's so the HUD element that you said you saw, like a sort of that red bar underneath there, that actually is prevalent in the E3 2010 trailer, which is the only real like early build gameplay footage that we have of the game. Also, we just electrified some guys, but that red bar was sort of like a demonstration of oh, and I also decided to turn on waypoints at this point, just because I was getting sick of this game's level design.
We're gonna fix that.
Yeah. So in that trailer, the red bar was supposed to basically, it was like a combo meter in Devil May Cry or something like that. It would just show you how long you had until the combo meter ran out for like environmental destruction, that sort of thing.
Take down the other cycle converters and the VFDs. That will cut
What is
down to
that
the
water
engines.
doing against the wall?
I don't know, but it. Also, for when blind firing from cover, I would not have been able to shoot out that glass door from the left side. It had to have been from the right, because there's like an arc as to how far you can shoot.
Okay.
Yeah, the cover system's not great. It's serviceable, but it does have a couple of weird quirks. Alright, so we're going to switch over to XBLA for this one. There's some unique dialogue in this room once you hack the CCTV camera.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with shit face.
It's little touches like that which...
Yeah.
To me, those are the little things that... why I prefer Scoot's original voice actor, in a way. It's the amateurishness of the whole thing.
Scotty Scoot has a certain charm to him.
Yeah. Alright, so this fight can be pretty tricky if you don't get a good ambush point. Oh, and also you can vault over cover, something that you were not able to do effectively in the original version. So with the Sonic rounds, basically you have to get a fully charged lethal headshot to kill. Or you can stun them long enough that they drown if the water level is high enough.
Oh, I hope his mother knows he's smoking.
Nice. Also, ammo pickups are now automatic. Whereas before you had to do like those 2 extra button presses. So that's nice.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely some quality of life in the updated version.
Yeah, and there are lots of small quality of life changes that really add up over time and make this a fairly not great but serviceable action title. So we got one last enemy here. Oh, something else I should mention is that in the original version, if you charge the LP4 Sonic rounds for too long, it would overheat.
Aren't gonna take themselves offline.
Which is just as awful as it sounds.
Now or never.
Does it damage Kate, or?
No, thankfully not. But it does. You are not able to use the LP4 for a couple seconds afterward.
Ooh.
Oh, the texture's loaded in this time. That's helpful. So they've amped up the difficulty a bit on the hacking minigame this time.
Feels great, doesn't it, Kate?
Now, I just need to take down the VFDs.
There was an actual timer on it.
Don't get ahead of yourself, Kate. Still gotta shut off the gas, remember?
It still reminds me of the Arkham hacking minigame.
Except with actual decent controls on PC.
Yeah.
Watch it, Kate.
Alright. So, more guys spawn here, and now that we have the high ground and some electrified cables, we could set up a great ambush here. Although, watch this. The electrified cables have a shorter range than you would think. That guy got electrified on the right, but not the guy on the left.
Oh, he's wearing his rubber boots.
Yep. It makes all the difference. I just love the way that enemies go absolutely flying when you use the sonic rounds. So this is the guy that carries the frequency key. Once you kill him, you get that. This is the replacement for the one ridiculously underwater stupid puzzle from before. Don't do this, by the way. Bad idea. Yeah, at this point, I was fed up and I just shot him in the head.
Just screw it. We're using live rounds.
When live rounds don't work, just blow them up. I'm really happy that the Queen of the World is not up to OSHA standards. As the great prophet of our time, Tony Yayo, once said, "I don't think this place is OSHA approved."
No! No. Nobody wants to work on this boat.
Alright, so there's the cipher. In a much more reasonable place.
Right. Now we can shut off that gas and move on to the VFDs.
It's a real shame you haven't read A Serious Unfortunate Events, because there are so many VFD jokes I could be making right now.
I'm going to have to catch up on my literature after this.
Yeah, specifically your young adult literature that makes specific references to really obscure books, plays, and other things that are way outside of the target audience. God, that made so many obscure references. Anyway, speaking of references, we're gonna crank this lever. Nice.
Oh.
And both scoots do this.
Oh my god.
Alright, I thought I'd play that again. So before we finish things off, I thought I would show off things that happen in alternate takes. So there are enemies that spawn here. And then I get bonuses for no reason. Turns out there was a fire that started, and it spawned, and it was directly on top of where those two enemies spawned.
So they just spawned into the fire.
They spawned on top of where the environmental fire started.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think that was the best possible way to end this episode.
Does this feel like it should have been a survival horror game to you?
I feel like at one point it may have been, and then they realized just how silly things got with the water physics, and then they decided, no, let's let the player go wild.
It feels to me a little bit like was it Deep Fear?
Yeah, Deep Fear was the
the Resident Evil underwater weird monsters.
Yeah, that was the one for Sega Saturn,
bullets.
Right?
Yeah, yep, that's the one. It's giving me that sort of vibe. You know,
unfortunately, there will be no air grenades.
Unfortunately.
Although, I don't want to spoil things, but John Mayer will be making a secret cameo.
Oh, yes.
He still can't catch anything, though.
Jesus, Scoot. You could have warned me.
Kate, I've got 2 balls and neither of them are crystal. There aren't any CCTV cameras in there.